Good afternoon. Welcome to this month's Social Media Roundup. I am not Andy Lambert. I'm sorry if that comes as a disappointment to anyone. I'm Katie O'Leary. I head up content for Content Cal, and I am channeling my inner Andy just to do a quick intro to today's session and then hand you over to the team that you are a little bit more familiar with. So thanks very much for joining this whistle-stop tour of all things trends and changes that have occurred throughout social channels in September. As always, please use the chat, ask your questions, make your introductions. We're a social bunch. We'd love you to do the same, join in. So Andy's not here, but Luann and Rob, who I'm sure you're very familiar with, are. So I'm going to start by handing over to you, Rob, for a quick introduction, and then we'll let Luann take us through the session as usual.
Awesome. Well, hello everybody. And I didn't even, until you said then, Katie, I could have swore that was Andy speaking.
I know. People get us mixed up all the time.
I'm glad you said that, because I made a fool of myself otherwise. It was great to be here again. I'm sure for those people who I'm sure there's a lot of familiar faces coming back to watch, and it's always great to see so many people. For those of you who are new to this, there's always so much going on. Luann and Andy usually go through so much stuff every month, and it's always such a great event. So the CMA are really happy to be a part of it. I am going to share a link actually, because there is an event that we're doing with Andy in December. I'm just going to pop the link on here now. It's a social media roundup. It's for the 12 months that we're kind of going to be coming up to in December. I popped in the chat box there, and it'd be great for you guys to register. It's free to register as well, and it's going to be a great event. For now, I'll sort of hand over to Luann, and I think for all of you who are new to this, sort of buckle in, because it's a fun-packed session with loads of great tips, and I'm sure you'll enjoy as well. I'm happy to connect as always. If I think the LinkedIns have just been sent around there as well.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, Andy's left me to do all the updates by myself today, but he has provided the slides and the info. So we have collaborated on the information that you're getting today. It's just all going to be presented by me. I will go as fast as I can through all of the updates that we have got. If you're new to us or just need a reminder, yes, we will be sending out the recording afterwards. Please do keep an eye on the chat. Katie and Rob are going to be looking at that, because I'm about to share my slides, which means I won't get to see what's going on behind the scenes for the next 40 minutes or so, I think. Let me just get those slides and check. Katie, can you see the first slide? Good to go?
See that?
We are. So I'm going to dive straight in, because as you know, there is lots and lots of updates for us to go through. It's a hello from me. As we said, Andy isn't here, but my name is Luann Wise. I am a social media consultant, trainer. I run my own business. I've actually just celebrated my 10th business birthday this month, so it's been quite a while since I've been out of the agency side, out of client side, but I do have a great working week and a mix, because I work directly with clients, supporting them mainly on social media and B2B, but also teaching and training as well. Of course, just a very quick slide. If you're not familiar with Content Cal, please do go and have a look. There'll be some links, I'm sure, going in the chat at the moment. It is a great management tool for those of us that are working in this very fast-paced, high-volume, content-driven world. So we need to start with the trends, and please do share your insights. Normally, Andy and I talk these through between us, so even though I can't see what you're saying right now, please do share your insights and your thoughts on these trends, as well as I share my thoughts on the slides that we've got. A few different trends that we've got today. Probably no surprise, they build on the ones that we talk about every month, but we've got some different data sources for you today. The links are quite small, but we can, you can zoom in on those if you watch the replay. The big point here is that the spend on social apps is booming. People are spending money with social media, and it's growing and growing month on month, quarter by quarter. And not only are we spending money on social apps and what we're doing and what we're working with, but the amount of money that consumers are spending through social apps is increasing as well. It's set to be 78 billion through to 2025 is the prediction. So we talk in these sessions about social commerce, about spending, about this is where people go to find products, to research products, to buy, and monetization. We've talked about monetization a lot over recent months as new features have come to these platforms, allowing creators producing the content to, I love this word, supercharge their monetization of social media apps. And we're going to have some of these ideas today and see how they're coming through with new features. And we've talked about some of them before as well, because there's always a lot of stuff in testing and then things start to roll out. So we have got some monetization stuff to talk about later. But this next one is a really interesting trend and one that shouldn't be forgotten. We've shared before how important YouTube is, how important TikTok is, Reels are coming through. It's about video. And Facebook and Instagram have seen massive spikes in live stream. So it's not all about recorded, it's about live stream as well, is more and more important. People like this interaction, apparently, of seeing things live. We know that a certain number of people do watch live stream as it's live, and then actually you get several hundred within the next 30 minutes, hour, few hours as well. So live streaming versus recorded, both important, but people do like to see what's going on live. And I'll share, I actually prefer doing live streaming as well. There's something about it, the caffeine hit, the adrenaline rush, or just the fact that you've got to keep going and you've got to do it. Whereas when you know that you're doing recording, you're perhaps a little bit harder on yourself because you know you can re-record it, you can watch it back, you can do other takes. So live streaming is something that people like, and so something definitely to consider for your content mix. So that's in terms of content production, but also these trends we're looking at. Consumption behaviors are changing. We've seen this, keep going on about it, but you know, the last 18 months have been different and experience, and but that's not the only reason for our consumption behaviors changing as well. It's about media mix overall, the platforms that people are spending their time on. We can see in this chart, if you look closer to the screen, how all of these options have changed over the last few years. From chat, it's the bottom one, the middle one is live, is photo and video, and the top one, the top line is that live streaming that I've just mentioned. So not only are we producing different types of content, but whoever's engaging with us on social media and online platforms, they're changing their consumption behaviors as well. So live streaming, photo, video, real-time chat is showing significant growth. The other area in social media world that is showing significant growth is no surprise if you've watched any of these sessions or read anything about social media, and it's this, it's TikTok. TikTok is absolutely winning the war for attention. They, in the last week, have announced how they have reached 1 billion monthly active users. And to put that into some context, that's a 45% increase since July 2020. So the growth of TikTok is phenomenal in terms of downloads, in terms of usage, in terms of the amount of time people are spending watching TikToks. And news announced again within the last couple of weeks that time on TikTok is now exceeding YouTube. And that's hugely significant. Video, we know, is important for content, but for something to overtake YouTube is a real game changer. I've got some more data on TikTok around usage, and you know, there is so much data, but it's really important to understand this as it is coming onto people's conversations more and more. People are kind of asking questions about it more, knowing that they need to consider this as a platform if they're not using it already. 81% of TikTok users are saying that they plan to spend the same amount of time or more on TikTok. 92% of TikTok users say that after they've watched something, they take an action, like liking, commenting a video, sharing with friends, following a brand, or doing some more research. So it's not a passive watch. They are actually doing something as well. And 25% of TikTok users say that they purchase or research that product after watching. So it's a really important place for brands to be as well right now. And yes, I'm going to say it, it's less than 100 days now, but Christmas is coming. So we're seeing that the social media platforms are all releasing holiday guides, how to use the platforms if retail needs some extra support in the season and the run up to Christmas. And social commerce, it's here, it's staying with us. Social media has really shifted people's expectations of brands. They want to feel connected, they want to be immersed, and they want live shopping as well. I think as a consumer, this is a bit dangerous if I was to be watching too much live shopping, but people are trying it, expect to increase their use of live shopping over the coming year. And people, when they were surveyed, they want to try new and different ways of shopping. We've had to. Physical stores closed down for such a long time, but perhaps this is something that's going to develop that online shopping even further. As I said, I think it might be a little bit dangerous for some of us, but we'll have to wait and see. The other big trend in terms of consumption, and again, partly related to the pandemic, but partly just, how we're interacting with media differently, is news consumption. This is just one chart that just shows how much people are using social media for their daily news. They are turning to the social media platforms, not switching on the radio, not switching on the TV. This is a lot of people are now regularly getting their news from Twitter primarily, which is probably more understandable. We know that that is real time. People are posting the news as it happens. We tend to see tweets as they are posted, unlike some of the other social media platforms. But social media users are getting their news increasingly Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, YouTube, TikTok, you name it. This is where they are going. So there's some new trends for you, and we've got trends every month. If anyone's got questions looking for data, we can always help you source that. But we also want to concentrate on what is new with the platforms. So I'm going to do all the platforms today, no mixing it up. I'm going to work through all of these, some changes to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Clubhouse, YouTube. So here we go. We will start with Facebook. I read the news before this session. I always double check just in case anything has broken in the last couple of hours, because there's nothing worse than doing a webinar and then someone asking a question about it. And what I haven't got a slide on, but we should be aware of, is that Facebook have now exited their beta testing on using Reels, and that it is now rolling out across the US. Most things are US driven first in terms of launching and rollouts. So I would be confident that we will be seeing that in the UK very soon. So more on Reels later, but it has exited its testing now and has been officially launched in the US. A big change that you may have noticed if you're scrolling through your Facebook newsfeed, and I'm seeing this more and more in my own, is that we are now seeing explore content in the newsfeed. We are seeing suggestions. This is suggested for you. And I spotted this, within the last couple of weeks. And, as a user, if you're not aware of all these changes, you might get a bit confused. Some of it's relevant, some of it isn't, but I'm certainly seeing a lot more of this content in my newsfeed with suggestions from news sources, events, shopping, lots of them in my newsfeed. And my top tip for you, if you don't want to follow them, don't want to see it anymore, want to snooze it, remember the 3 dots. Whenever you see 3 dots on a social media platform, click them, because it gives you a drop-down menu, gives you an option to do something. And if you're seeing lots of suggested content that's not relevant, you're not interested in, don't want to see it anymore, click those 3 dots and you can remove it. Doesn't stop it happening, but you can streamline it and get focused on what you want to see. Facebook's ad platform is also changing all the time. We know that they're adding in new features, new options. This one I particularly like. I love a call to action. It's always got to be about a call to action when you're posting content, but particularly when you're advertising. What do we want people to do when they've seen our message? And the new options are about messaging. Do we want to send messages via Instagram, on WhatsApp, or through Messenger? So we now have those as call to action options within Facebook for our advertising. As well as call to actions, the other thing that we like and we always talk about is testing. And there is a new option within Facebook for split testing your organic content. For me, I love this. You can split test within the paid for area, but now we have this option to be split testing our posts. We can test images, we can test text, links and videos. So have a look at that. We know that the smallest difference can actually have a big impact on what we're doing on social media. So now we've got that option to do some split testing and get data insights. Remember, my argument is always that the answers are in your own data. So use these opportunities to test and just continue to try and improve on what you're doing to get the results that you're looking for. Sometimes not quite sure how these work on Facebook. They bring them in, they remove them, they bring them back, but you can use hashtags on Facebook, probably used more for campaigns. If you think about yourself, take your, swap hats and think about yourself as a Facebook user. Do you search by hashtags to discover content? You may do more so because it is the way of finding content on Instagram and other platforms. But do use hashtags on Facebook. And there is now, we've discovered this opportunity that when you start typing your hashtag into your post on Facebook, it is bringing up hashtag count previews as it does on Instagram. So you can decide what ones you might want to choose, which ones are most relevant. Remember, sometimes people like to go for the big ones with the large numbers, sometimes go for the niche ones. I would recommend a mix, but stick to the hashtags that are relevant to your content. This next change was reported on a blog and is actually quite exciting for anyone working in social media and has that battle of using their Facebook personal profile to access their work pages and be on their work, but know that they have to log in through their personal profiles. There was a blog that said that Facebook is working on launching work accounts. Probably not going to be until next year, which actually it's October tomorrow, so that's not that far away to be starting to talk about 2022. But the opportunity to have a work account on Facebook, I know that some people do this and have a personal account and a work account. It's technically against Facebook's terms and conditions. So if you're working that way, this will become the norm, we hope, in 2022, and will make a big difference for using Facebook for work, I'm sure. That's Facebook. Instagram, more changes for Instagram, and really interesting, this first one. I love that Andy put a picture of himself on the slide for this one. Someone mentioned this in the chat in our last session, I think, about being able to use Instagram for collaborating, and that if you are in a brand partnership or collaborating, as we do on this webinar, that there is now the opportunity to show that on your feed posts and in your reels as well. And if, because we prepared something earlier, hopefully there's the link on exactly how to do that coming through into the chat for you now. But if you are co-creating content in any brand partnerships, this is a great feature on Instagram so that you can actually really show that and be clear about what you're doing. I've already mentioned hashtags on Facebook, but hashtags, we know, this is what Instagram is all about, hashtags. And it was quite insightful to see that their own creator account has actually revealed the answer to the big question that we're always asked, and that is where to put your hashtags. And they have revealed that the best place to put them is in the captions. And I know that, as a user, there's been different ways of doing this over the years, from putting them in the captions, but putting some dots and spaces to move them down so it doesn't look cluttered, putting them in comments so it doesn't look cluttered in the caption. I've actually always gone down the route of putting them in the captions for a couple of reasons. One, because I've been able to schedule them in captions, but two, because I could edit them. And for me, it's always about time management versus features as well. But Instagram have come out, their creator account has said, put your hashtags, keywords in your caption. So hopefully that finally solves that big question. Instagram have also been looking at a reshare sticker. I double checked this myself on my own app earlier. I don't have this one yet, but this is all about not making it so easy to share a post to a story. Not everyone likes repurposing a post so easily to a story because the story hasn't been created as a story, isn't so interactive. So this reshare sticker is going to make it slightly longer process. If you wanted to share a post to a story, it's about making it more intentional. So that's not a bad thing, making sure that we have this differentiation between a post and a story, making sure that when we're looking at either one of them on the platform, that each one has their own purpose. So Instagram are just changing how we do it as they like to. But on the other hand, they've introduced a feature, or will be introducing a feature, depends where you are on the rollout, of, it's called Montage. And this is about turning your story or stories into a reel. This, I think, unlike the post to stories feature, is about trying to really push their reels feature, which we know that they've been pushing and focusing on. It's their latest feature, so they're trying to make it easier for people to use it. So we can expect to see this opportunity to link our stories together as a montage, so we can use them as a reel. While I'm on reels, the big question, there's lots of big questions, reels or TikTok? And there is an answer. Someone has tested this, tested it very robustly. When I read about it, they have tested it absolutely like for like, set up new accounts, posted the same content over a week on both Reels and TikTok, to see what happened. The answer, what won? TikTok. The TikTok did a better job of pushing out the content. So it's exactly the same content, same timings, same status of account in terms of being new. The caveat when you read the write-up about this is that TikTok is doing a better job at pushing content to a small or new audience. Remember, this is about your own audience and relevance to your own audience. So harder to test that perhaps going on, what's relevant to your audience and what resonates with them. But in terms of what pushes out content better, Reels versus TikTok, TikTok was the winner. Okay. I needed more coffee this afternoon. Doing this one by myself. Let's move on to Twitter. Twitter, they have been really busy with new features over the last 12 months, I think, probably more so than they ever were. We often didn't get a chance to talk about in social media updates, but they continue to launch and test, and again around this theme of monetization as well. So they have now launched super follows. It was being tested. It's now rolling out US and Canada first. It will be rolling out globally over the next few weeks and months, and they have said that it's going to be rolling out on iOS first before Android. This is about charging your followers for access to extra content. I haven't seen this. I haven't been able to subscribe or super follow anyone yet, but now it's come out of testing and starting to roll out. I think there'll be some of us that start to do this just to see how it works, what the experience is like. So again, this is a really interesting one to look at. Another area that I'm really interested in, and I like the concept of what Twitter are doing here, is about testing communities. And the concept behind this is about sharing your posts, your tweets, with interest-based groups. So not just with your own followers, but with groups of people centered around interests. And I think this could be huge. I don't know yet whether you need to opt into interests, or Twitter's going to say, it looks like you're interested in this area because you follow these kind of people. Here's some more content like that. It's still early days, but just this different way of getting your content out there to more people is something that's going to be really interesting to watch, I think. We know that another monetization area, and Twitter bought Review a little while ago, their newsletters are now live. If you've seen these with people producing newsletters, via Twitter, you may see subscribe buttons within their feed at the top of their posts. I've received a few that have come through, very easy to subscribe through Twitter. You get them in your inbox and it's very clear that that's how you subscribed, and you can unsubscribe as well. So really interesting to see how that's going to work, whether that's people are going to shift their newsletters to this away from perhaps traditional email newsletter platforms, or whether this is going to be a separate stream of content that we might see coming through. But the option is now there. A bit like Facebook and those work accounts that we're expecting next year, Twitter a bit ahead on this one. They are now rolling out what they're calling professional profiles. That means on the profile itself, you will be able to have display information about your business. You can see it quite small on here. It's a bit like the bio on Instagram when you have a look at it. It's got an about section, get directions, have a website link. Interested to see how this works. Interested to see if it happens like Instagram, where you switch between business and personal. I don't know the answer to that one yet. If anyone does, please put it in the chat. But I think this is going to be interesting to see how professional profiles work, particularly because when I've worked in the Twitter space with individuals, we've often kind of tested the corporate account and the logo versus an individual or a business leader. So this is a whole nother area that, again, we've got to test. We've got to look at it and see what happens. But great new features, I think, that are coming out. They're rolling out ticketed spaces. Twitter have really taken a leap in this area of audio and spaces this year. And the fact that you can now ticket it and get paid for doing those, it up levels the whole concept of audio and the quality of the content and the conversations, the gatherings that you might have, and that we can now ticket them and get paid for them as well, is another one to watch and test. Particularly, I think, as the event world is going back to face-to-face as well as online. We're not seeing, as we did over the past few months, everything being online and so much being free. I think we're seeing a new event model rolling out as well. So again, one to watch. First mention of privacy options today. We know that this is something that all of the social media platforms are always working on and trying to educate their users to understand their privacy options, go in and make sure that they're aware of what they're sharing with who, and to be really clear on that. This is an interesting one around Twitter will soon let you hide your old tweets. We have seen in the big wide world, and I've also seen it in my own networks and smaller conversations, people have been caught out by old tweets that they've posted many years ago, perhaps when they were a lot younger, perhaps when they were in a different role, and it has caused issues. This is an option that will be happening, that means that you would be able to change the setting so that tweets would no longer be publicly visible after a specific time period, and there'll be different time periods for you to select from. So if you may have done things in the past, I would go through and delete them, but perhaps this gives people more control as well over what's visible throughout their lives, whether that's as they're studying, as they are using it professionally. We are on these social media platforms for a long time now, so an interesting privacy option to look at. LinkedIn. If I had to have a favorite, yes, it would be LinkedIn. It's a platform that I've personally used the longest. I do work with them, but it's a B2B context, and they don't update features as often as some of the other platforms. It's not quite as fast paced as the other platforms. A couple of stats for you here, which I know Andy and I would have great debate over, but I'm going to just share them and see what you think. Here's some data around LinkedIn's average engagement rate by link presence, whether it's an article, an image, a job post, a document, text or video, no link versus with link. And I know from the training I do that this is always a question. Should I put a link? Social media platforms don't like me to go out of the platform. They like me to stay there. I will debate this. My opinion is, if you need a link, you need a link. If your objective with that post is to get someone to go and look at your blog, or to sign up to an event or apply for a job, you need a link. There is no need to gain something because of the no link with link answer. It's about what you need to achieve with that post. But do look at the data. It's worth involving in your planning and understanding what the big trends are. And here it looks like for some post types, no link gets a better engagement. Some other post types need a link. Jobs is the winner on that one. Again, no surprise. And then different types of post. This data shows a different engagement rate by type of post. Image out in the lead here, probably not surprising, because we know that images grab attention. They give us that stop the scroll, the thumb stopping moment to see what's going on. And very often images, if they're of people, if they're of products, if they're of services, if they're of pets, they're engaging. So it's not surprising that the highest engagement rate on LinkedIn, and I'm sure it'd be the same on some other platforms, is image, followed by video. Jobs, people are actively looking for jobs, so they're going to get engagement and looking at this as well. So again, look at your own data, use this to inform your activity, your planning, and what you're doing. Useful for benchmarking and consideration. I'm not always a big fan of LinkedIn company pages. I think the value of LinkedIn usually comes from your own personal profile and engaging one-to-one. People do business with people. A company page for me is a bit like an about page, a press page on a website. You need it. It's useful. It's more useful when you use it centrally and then get your employees, your colleagues to share it out to their own personal networks. But LinkedIn, in terms of their pages, have been adding new features, adding new analytics opportunities, adding ways to share content, find content, and there is now a competitors area to the analytics tab as well. I was having a look at this earlier on some of the company pages I have access to. It gives you the opportunity to follow 9 competitors. It makes some recommendations to you, or you can search for a page and add those in and swap them around. And you get 2 types of data. You get follower metrics, which actually you would have been able to find anyway if you were looking at their pages, but very useful to have it in one place and not have to go out and do that. But you also get the engagement on organic content. And that was something that you couldn't get before. You also couldn't get it if you use some third-party tools either. So I think that's really useful if you are doing competitor analysis, benchmarking, some reporting to key stakeholders within your business. So if you are using LinkedIn and your company page as a hub and want to see what's happening to that, go and have a look at the competitors tab under analytics. A couple of other changes. They do come in batches on LinkedIn. Articles have now come to company pages. In the past, articles were all about a personal profile, which is useful. LinkedIn haven't hidden the fact that articles do not get as much reach, views, impressions, engagement as posts, but they have now added them to company pages, which again, I think is really useful if you've got core company content, core blog content that isn't necessarily assigned to an individual. You can now post that on the company page. And I guess if you're the marketer in the business managing this centrally, then that gives you another avenue to distribute your content. My advice, perhaps the same with the article opportunity on a personal profile, I probably wouldn't be creating content just for this, but I would be using it certainly if I already had the blog content on a website or in a newsletter. This is another place that you can just repurpose and get visibility and get more out there. Some more from LinkedIn. Updates to live streaming and events. So LinkedIn have had LinkedIn Live for a little while. It's been in beta for a long time and testing. They are now integrating their events feature with live events. So now opportunities around, if you want to schedule your lives in advance, it will automatically create an event to invite people to. It's lowered their threshold for access to LinkedIn Live. So There should be a link coming up in the chat. If you haven't applied yet or have applied in the past, apply for your access to LinkedIn Live. You may get it approved quickly. It may take some time, but they are now rolling this out. It does work. I've done a few myself. I was part of the testing last year. They do have some kind of really strong guidelines around LinkedIn Lives and what they're expecting from lives on the platform, that it's not a quick live. It's not a 1 or 2 minute thing, that they would like it to be kind of 10, 15 minutes plus. They like the idea of treating a LinkedIn Live like a TV show or an interview or something conversational rather than how to kind of content. It's not really for that. It's kind of, they're more educational, conversational, peer-to-peer thought leadership content that they're looking for on the platform. But we expect to see more of it. And if it's something that you're interested in, do get your application in for when the time is right. They're also updating great features for business. Their advertising tools, making it easier, even easier to use. If you remember from last month, we shared, I think it was last month, that LinkedIn have their own online learning free certification to go through their ads platform and learn how to use it. So many targeting options if you're working in B2B. Now the option for brand lift testing, optimizing your reach, and also playing around with the reach and frequency forecasting as well. So there's lots of areas that you can control and self-serve on this platform. Definitely something to look at if you are in that B2B space. They are also, as we've seen this word, I don't think we've said it today yet, but this word creator, and loving the fact that social media platforms are really recognizing their creators now and how important they are in terms of, you know, creating content for these platforms, and that creators are supported and valued and want to work together to really kind of make the best that we can of these opportunities. So LinkedIn have launched a $25 million creator fund. The application deadline, I checked, this is the 12th of October, so you have got time. We're going to put a link in the chat so that you can go and have a look at that. Plus, they've got a Clubhouse competitor coming soon. We know that they were working on it, but that is definitely something that's within their creator, their content world. There's money available to support you in doing that. But they shut down stories. Just as Twitter shut down fleets, we did announce this, I think, last month. I think it's just shut down their stories feature, or paused, put on hold, see how this worked. They like to launch things, evaluate, look at the data, look at the user experience, but it shut down. Stories feature has gone. I'm sure something else will come back soon. And the last LinkedIn one, I'm doing all right for time, I think. The last LinkedIn one for you today is similar to the LinkedIn Live events one I just talked about. You may start to see what's called LinkedIn Office Hours. This is currently exclusively for LinkedIn course instructors. Like myself, we do get some additional features for working and creating content for the platform. This means that right now, LinkedIn Learning, if you have a premium account, or you can just subscribe to LinkedIn Learning, their whole library of online learning courses, which are incredible. I can't tell you how much work goes into every course that goes live on that platform, not only from the course instructor, but from everyone at LinkedIn as well, from the content manager, the producers, the production teams. But it's pre-recorded. And when you watch one of these courses, you can send messages to the course instructors. We welcome that. We do get a lot of messages from people watching the courses, but they are trying to encourage more engagement. So course instructors are now encouraged to set office hours where we can interact live with learners on those courses. So if learning is something that you're looking at on the platform, you may expect to see your course instructors that you've watched, engaged with, or just connected to launching their office hours to do live Q&A sessions. I need to set my own hours for that at some point. TikTok, let's talk about TikTok, the most downloaded platform, the fastest, you know, overtaking YouTube, as I said earlier, is incredible. I've just got a few updates on TikTok for you today, but there is more coming out, more for us to digest, because they had a big big showcase event on Tuesday this week. So day before yesterday, they've announced some news. I'm sure more's coming out over the next few days. They are growing, and they're not stopping their growth either, for businesses and brands as well as other users. Advertising is growing. Those stats we looked at earlier, the number of consumers that were exposed to ads on TikTok rose to 37% in the last few months compared to 19% last year. We're seeing this more and more. We're seeing brands trying it out. We're seeing consumers watching these ads. And as the data's already shown, people are doing something when they've seen the ads as well. The demographics on this platform, I think we know some of this, but of those monthly active users, this number's it's gone since we created these slides just a couple of days ago. But 26 to 31% of TikTok users are over 30 years old, which is quite a lot. That's well over 200 million active users over 30 years old. We might think it's a younger platform, but there are other people using it as well, so we shouldn't forget that. Back to paid, how are we going to promote this? How are we going to use it as businesses and brands? There is the opportunity to boost posts on there, access, promote through your individual video settings, through creator tools, through business suite. Get your content out there. If you've got something that's been working organically, that's usually the best way and the best time to start putting money behind it. And their live center. We've talked about live streaming, how important that is. LinkedIn are increasing it. Office hours, live events. TikTok have launched a live center as well. This is all about new features. There's a platform with all the news information you need. Analytics is in there as well. So if you're doing live updates, engaging with live updates, need to get over a fear of doing live. TikTok's live center. There is so many resource hubs on all of these platforms as well. So if any of these features that we talk about on the sessions, you need to know more, they all have resource hubs where you can go and dive in to the deeper information and, you know, actually make this stuff happen. Just one, I think I've just got one YouTube update. I'm nearly there. We've got time for questions. YouTube, another creator benefit here. This is about community posting. This is for creators to interact with their fans. There's a limit. You need 1,000+ subscribers before this opportunity. But when you have 1,000+ subscribers, you would then have this community channel, dedicated space on your account, on your channel, where you can actually start to engage and do community posts as well. So that's kind of shifting into some other areas of social media. It's not just about the video and the comments. I love this and really looking forward to seeing how this develops as well. And it may be encouraging people to build their audience so they can start to create a community on YouTube as well. I mentioned that LinkedIn had a Clubhouse alternative coming soon. We've talked about Spaces, just a couple of Clubhouse updates. It is still here. You know, it was very big at the beginning of the year, late last year, now available on all platforms. Talked about hubs and resources on these platforms to help you. Clubhouse have launched now what they call Creator Commons. So they have a whole area where you can go in there, learn, answer questions, get advice, see best practice. If you're using it, you may find more information. If you haven't even started yet and want to know what this is all about, go and have a look at Creator Commons. You will find all the learnings from people using it and lots of advice from the platform itself. And one new feature, last new feature of today, Clubhouse have launched a new Wave feature, which is just a really quick way to invite your friends to a room by tapping on a waving hand emoji. You made it, I made it. Looking forward to seeing what's been going on behind the screen. I can only see my slides, can't even see myself or the chat, but let's just summarize what we've gone through today. A lot, but the key trends and themes are, it's still all about creators, it's all about content, those niche communities as well, whether it's on your YouTube community or that idea on Twitter about being able to share your content with interest-based communities and not just your followers. And we've seen lots of monetization opportunities, particularly with Twitter, super follows, newsletters, ticketed spaces. Lots has happened. We don't know what we're going to be talking about next month, but I'm sure that there's going to be even more changes for us to share at the end of October. So I'm going to stop sharing my slides, see what you've all been talking about for 45 minutes, and ask Katie if there's any questions.
Well done. Who needs Andy? You just dragged us down. So, obviously, we love Andy and we're looking forward to him being back next month. But Luann, that was amazing. Thank you so much. The chat started with a few congratulations on your 10 years as well.
Thank you.
So well done. I mean, you must have seen the whole world change in that time.
It's one of those things that kind of 10 years seems like yesterday, and then actually 10 years feels like 10 years. And I won't pretend, you know, I think the last 2 years have probably been the hardest. Yes, things have changed, but I've had some wonderful opportunities, traveled the world talking about social media, sat at my desk talking about social media, worked with loads of clients as well. I think that when I set up my own business, I thought it was just going to be another job. But it changes every day. It changes with every opportunity and every conversation. So yeah, if you're thinking about it, do it, but don't think about it at the same time.
Nice. So there was a few subjects you spoke through that definitely sparked a bit of liveliness in the chat. The first one was definitely around Christmas live shopping. It's kind of terrifying how close we are to Christmas. I hope every marketeer has already planned out their campaigns. What do you think it's going to look like? Are you imagining there's going to be a bit of a sort of a hybrid where people are going to go back to bricks and mortar retail, but you're also going to have as much online stuff happening as we did last year?
I think we're kind of in this world that is quite hard to predict, because we have to remember that we were pretty much in lockdown in the run up to Christmas last year. So anyone that was in e-commerce, you know, probably had a very good Christmas last year, but you know, can you base that on your planning for this year? Because we don't know what it's going to look like. We also know that there are some supply chain difficulties out there right now, and you know, some empty shelves on stock in shops and what was happening over the last few months. So I think Christmas is, you know, and retail looks very different this year to what it looked like in lockdown last year, to what it looked like pre-COVID. I think what we have to do, if anyone's in e-commerce, and I've got e-commerce sites as well, is plan and just understand these features. If the social media platforms are giving us opportunity to tag our products, to do live, to use video and live stream, if you're in retail, you've just got to kind of look at what's available and take every opportunity. I kind of think we're going to go back to a bit of a kind of QVC TV shopping day, which was,
you know, I've written down live shopping QVC. That was exactly
maybe show my age, but you know, we'll see. You know, I think that would be great, because I think for me, the thing about live shopping and, you know, the danger side versus the good if you're a retailer is being able to bring these products to life. We know how important imagery is and video, and seeing things on a flat screen is quite hard, and you know, returns are through the roof. So I think this whole live shopping, this is what I've got, see it in action, see how it looks. I think it's quite exciting, but as a shopper, a bit dangerous too.
A little bit too easy to click on that buy button. Definitely a few questions around sort of what's going on with Twitter. So obviously very interesting that Twitter is the main news source. It's where people are going to get their news in real time. What do you think that does around the sort of fake news that's occurring? Obviously, more fact checks have been introduced over the last 12 months anyway. Thank you, Donald Trump. That was the one good thing that happened from that man. And you kind of get those warnings at the bottom of posts that flag the fact they might not be true or are giving contradicting information. Do you think we're going to see that increase with more news hunters going to that
I think
channel?
the platforms themselves have got a bigger challenge to be managing it. And I think I read some news that YouTube are now having to manage misinformation around vaccines as well. So it's not just about kind of Twitter and Facebook, it's, you know, across all of these platforms. I think there's a few things here. I think as users of social media, we need to develop our skills of questioning and who we trust and what we trust. You know, there's lots of people that do that and look at it, you know, just don't take things at face value. This is all about trust, isn't it? And who you follow and get the information from. I particularly like Twitter for news, because you don't just have to go to the traditional, BBC, Sky, the news channels. You can get it from real people on the ground, but also understand what people think about it as well. So for me, Twitter's like a large real-time focus group. I just have to, as a user, go, what do I trust, and what do I need to question, and what do I need to dive in further? I think no one can take anything at face value without having that question in their mind.
Yeah. And staying with Twitter, I saw you comment on this one, Rob, about being able to hide your old
Rob,
posts.
Rob, what have you done?
Yeah.
I certainly did a lot of questionable things when I was 18 that I'm glad nobody can scroll back through.
I said a lot of questionable things last year.
And when we think about that sort of cancel culture and how many kind of celebrities in particular have been literally wiped out by something they posted years and years ago, how do you think that will change the world of, I suppose, influencers and social media celebs as we know it?
I think it's important that you are always aware of what you're posting online and who you're posting to. I've been aware of, we've seen it in the news, in the press, I've been aware of, people that get board role positions, and then someone goes through their tweets and sees something that they posted on a night out or on a trip. And, it's kind of, that does cause problems. I think it's everyone's responsibility to think before you post in the first place, and and to stay in control of your profiles, and maybe every now and again scroll back through and go, perhaps I'll remove that one. Perhaps I did it in the heat of the moment, and just be in control of it and not forget. I've done social media training where I kind of go, oh, did you know that your Facebook isn't closed down, and that I could see your stag do in Amsterdam 6 years ago, and and the look on people's faces and students as well. So I'm not ever saying don't do it. Do have a personality, do share what you need to share, but if you have got reasons for, in the professional world, of things that you don't need millions and billions of people to see, stay in control yourself and just occasionally have a filter through. I'm gonna go through yours now, Rob, before you get a chance to. It's gonna be about pizza.
Well, I think I've mentioned before, but I deleted Twitter about a year. I'm nearly coming up to 1 full year now of not being on Twitter, and it's great. But I go through my memories on Facebook like every day, just kind of a routine now. In my coffee in the morning, I think, oh my God, and I delete. I think it's such a good practice, I think, because even as you said, Luann, even like nothing was like crazy and outrageous, and there's none that I probably get sacked for, I don't think. But there are certain things that you kind of think like, oh, I don't know. And to be honest, I was speaking to an influencer before, and he was telling me that he actually deletes all of his old posts, just to kind of, because with the cameras, they're not as good, so it's almost like an aesthetic thing. So he doesn't want people scrolling down after like a year and thinking, oh my God, I can't believe he's posted that. So it's almost, he didn't want it to harm him getting jobs. So it's interesting actually how it's not just kind of as in posts as in Twitter and Facebook. It's actually old styles as well, I suppose, which I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff, because my style is the same. It hasn't changed in years.
I don't see that there's anything wrong with that. This is you as an individual or your brand, so you should be in control of doing it. But I'm with you on the Facebook memories. What bothers me about mine is sometimes I don't know what I was talking about, or I had one this week that said I was in Bournemouth 5 years ago, and I have no recollection of checking in somewhere, and it's like I genuinely don't know where I was.
I remember seeing someone repost a memory and just writing, yes, thank you, Facebook. I used to be thinner, prettier, and on holiday. Thank you. Which is, I think, where all of us feel that when it comes around, especially in lockdown.
It's going to be interesting coming up, isn't it? Because we haven't done anything for a year. So are we just going to not have any Facebook memories in 12 months' time? Watching TV, done Netflix.
It's a good tip though, because I think before that because I don't use Facebook anymore, I used to use the birthdays as a way to like unfriend people. So every time I'd be like, oh, it's Katie's birthday today. Oh, I don't want to be friends with her anymore. And I kind of use that now as like memories every day. Just kind of go on and be like, right, what do I want to delete from my past?
Brilliant. Anything else?
So the last platform, there were sort of a few questions around, and then we can share some information about next events we've got coming up. LinkedIn. So there was a couple of things that you mentioned here, Luann, about adding the. Sorry, I literally copied and pasted it and then totally lost it. It's here. We do need Andy. about adding the link to the LinkedIn posts, whether the algorithm prefers posts without links. Obviously, looking at your slide, it looked as though they perform better without, but you also mentioned if you need a link, you need a link. So would you advise dropping it into the comments or keeping it in that initial post?
Algorithm is kind of a bit of my trigger word, but I'll keep it. I'll keep it. No. I know
it wasn't me.
I'll keep it calm. We have covered it. So, the reason that for me it's it comes up in every training session, and then I'm kind of like, breathe, answer. You are writing for an audience. You're writing for your target audience. We genuinely like SEO. We don't know exactly how Google works, and people have been trying for years. We don't know exactly, sometimes the platforms do come out. Instagram came out over the last week and said how we prioritize the newsfeed, and Facebook does as well. There is a certain amount of information, but when it comes to these, just don't sweat it. Don't lose sleep over where you should put that link or where you shouldn't put that link. Focus on who you're talking to, what you want to let them know, and make it easy for them. So the reason, where to put the link, personally, I put it within the main post because it's easy. It's all in one place. So I'm doing a webinar. This is when the webinar is. This is the date and time. If you want to register, put it here. If I see link is in the comments, I've got to go and find it. I may, if there's thousands of comments or even 10 comments, I've got to scroll and do something. And personally, as a user, I'm like, you've made it too hard for me. So for me, it's about that balance between what's more important. Am I going to lose a handful of people that might see it versus making it easy for people to make that booking or go and see my blog or something else? So I tend to not worry about algorithms and go for making life easy for who's following it to do what I want them to do.
Yeah, I was going to agree, because I mean, even here now with hundreds of people on the webinar and with the CMA webinars as well, I mean, we still get hundreds of people on the webinar, so clearly something is working, because we kind of put it on LinkedIn. So yeah, I kind of agree. I think there's always been that, and I'm glad the graph kind of shows there. It's not. I think I would have taken, not that I didn't take notice to it, but I would have taken more notice if it was like 90% versus 10% of thing. But they kind of look quite similar. And yeah, if you want someone to do something, it's much easier just to kind of have it in there. It looks native rather than just trying to force
I
something.
think what's more important about that as well is that actually you show up consistently and your audience know what to expect from you and what you're going to give them and what you're going to deliver. And you don't just appear once out of a blue moon and go, I want you all to do something and I'm going to make it really hard, but I'm doing it because I think the algorithm's going to work it this way, and then disappear again. Focus on what you need to do and what your audience expect and know, love, trust you for, and just don't lose sleep on all these where to put it, where to click, and how many of this and that. Just be human, I think.
I think that's such a lovely point, actually, and something, if anything, I'm too guilty as a content writer of writing for an audience. And actually only today have I had to go back through and do loads of SEO optimization, because I've been all about how does it read rather than what purpose is this serving. But ultimately, I want people to enjoy what we're creating. So I think that's kind of maybe that's the takeaway for all of us, is remember you're writing for an audience, not for an algorithm. So I've just dropped two links into the chat. One is for our next webinar, which is with Catherine Maskell, who Rob and I both have previously worked with, I believe.
I was about to say, make sure you sign up for that one, because that'll be a great webinar, I'm sure.
Yeah, she is the queen of a marketing plan. She used to make me put a picture of my face on a marketing plan and put it on the wall in rude recruitment branches. That's about how much accountability she puts around it. Someone drew devil horns on it once, but we moved on.
Only once?
Once I saw.
Yeah.
And then the next social media roundup is happening on October 28th, which is basically Halloween. So I reckon we fill that with scary social media stories. And Andy doesn't know it yet, but he will be in the best Halloween costume.
That's his punishment for leaving
it. Yeah, that'll be a lovely surprise for him next time. So make sure you join in, see what Andy is dressed up in. And thank you so much for joining us today. There's been some great questions. Luann, you did amazingly.
I accidentally put that up as well. I was going to send a link to an event we're doing with Andy, but I put it up using a different thing. So yeah, that's what that is on the bottom corner. That's the CMA and Andy are doing a 12-month roundup. But I clicked on the wrong thing, but that's what that is, if anyone's wondering, on the bottom.
So there's loads of stuff to sign up, but what we'll also do, as always, is send you out a replay of this, and we'll do a summary blog covering off all the key points, and we'll give you links to all the events we've got coming up, which is the 12-month roundup, repurposing and planning webinar with Catherine Mascall, and of course the spooky social media roundup happening next month. And Llewellyn,
Thank you everyone, good to see you. Take care. Bye.
Awesome, guys, take it easy.
Bye.